inside your spotlight this morning, we want you to be as safe as you possibly can. To do that, I want to give you some information. Let me welcome to the Now Morning Show, Leah Padier, Harvey, Financial Compliance Agenda and Child Affairs Division, Anne-Marie Kwame Allen, the Project Execution Officer at the National Policy on Gender and Development at Gender Affairs Division, Office of the Prime Minister, and Kimberly Gilbert, who's HIV advocate outside of her regular job, but today she's representing the National AIDS Coordinating Committee. Good morning, ladies, and welcome to the Now Morning Show.
Good morning, Marcus. Good morning, Trinidad and Tobago.
How are we doing this morning? We all right?
We're good. We're wonderful.
All right. Shall I start with you, Kimberly? Tell me why we have this connection and collaboration happening from a messaging point of view.
During the Carnival season, there's a heightened awareness of safety and health, and that is of utmost importance because we know that a lot of persons become even more vulnerable during this time. The Office of the Prime Minister, which all of the units that we represent is under, is really obligated to seek after the well-being and the welfare of the citizenry. And because of that, we have collaborated to ensure that persons know of all of the guidance that the Office of the Prime Minister provides, as well as to be able to know all of the services that are available.
All right. Let me jump across to you, Anne-Marie. Tell me about the key issues that gender and childcare they want to let everybody know about.
Well, some of the key issues we have is safety for women. Safety for men, safety for children. That's public safety. We're looking at sexual harassment. We're looking at consent. There's something in the news about whining etiquette suddenly. You have to ask to whine on somebody, whether you're man on woman, woman on woman.
As in, you have to verbally ask?
Yeah, verbally, yeah. It's something we're looking at because that could lead to another issue of maybe violence. Then we're looking at the consumption of alcohol, the consumption of drugs. We're looking at unprotected sex. That's why National AIDS Coordinating Committee is leading this charge today. So these are some of the issues that Gender Affairs is looking at overall.
Tell me the role, the financial compliance role, Leah, in all of this.
Well, it's easy to say that it's a all hands on deck approach. Everyone has to come together, the NAC, the Gender, the Child Affairs Division, where we hold hands and we share the information across. We ask for the public to support in terms of sharing this information. When you see us at events, to share this information. While it is with love to have the reach near and far all over Trinidad and Tobago, we can't do it ourselves. We need everyone to come on board to help us support this initiative by making the public aware of what's going on.
All right. Kimberly, when it comes to, of course, we know that around Carnival time is heightened everything from alcohol consumption, as you would have mentioned, to sexual activity, or at least the perception of it. You mentioned whining, and I find it very interesting, right? Because, and I say that because I feel as though culturally we use our bodies to communicate, right?
Yes, we do.
So sometimes if you're telling me that, if you're about to say, well, you have to say, excuse me, ma'am, may I please have this wine? Is that the only way that we can go about it? Is it the only way that we can approach a situation of communication? Is it that we are allowed to say, well, we can take cues from each other's body, and what sort of safety concerns do we have in that regard?
Well, we do have safety concerns around persons moving alone, whereas moving in groups, knowing how you are coming to an event, leaving from that event, knowing where the safety points are, let's say the muster points, identifying who are the security personnel there and things like that. As it relates to the whining, as Ms. Kwame Allen had mentioned, I think we can look at non-verbal cues as well, because sometimes, especially in a loud environment, it's really tough when you're blasting, and if you're like me, you're by the speaker box, right? So it's a bit tougher times to hear anything but the music. So that can play a role as well.
Tell me about beyond Carnival from the NACC perspective. What sort of communication are we looking at in terms of HIV and AIDS awareness?
Sure. Beyond Carnival, we are continuing to have dialogue and engagement with the bodies that are attached to the national HIV response and also other stakeholders that can play a key role. So like example, right now we're doing a youth pan crawl where we're going to the different pan yards and actually doing interventions with them. The MAD company is bringing their drama to really engage persons. So we have that. The national policy on HIV and AIDS white paper is being finalized. And very soon that will be before cabinet for approval. And with that, there is a national strategic plan, which is going to help with the implementation of the policy. So it's not just a policy to put on a shelf.
Well, I want to know what the kind of things the policy have inside that we should be knowing about.
Yeah, and the policy also, so there will be a campaign around that. And you'll also see within the policy rules for different government agencies, for private sector, for NGOs, because there are different targets globally that we are signed on to. One of those being to end AIDS as a public health threat by 2030. And we have to achieve that by encouraging persons to get tested, encouraging persons who are newly diagnosed to get and stay on treatment. And also there's something called viral suppression, where persons can reach to a point of being undetectable and not able to pass on HIV to either their child or their partner. So we want to heighten the awareness of this, and we want to take away that stigma and discrimination that prevents people from getting tested. So we're going to carry on and amplify and expand the work that the National AIDS Coordinating Committee is doing at this time. And as my colleague had mentioned, we can't do it alone. So persons who are interested to be a part of our outreach teams can let us know, can reach out to us. In addition to which, if it is that persons have an agency, they have a NGO, a youth group, a women's group, a men's group, anything, and you would like to get information from either Child Affairs, National AIDS Coordinating Committee, or Gender Affairs, they can reach out to the Office of the Prime Minister for us to come and do enlightenment sessions and so forth.
When it comes to Child Affairs, tell me why it's important for us to have safety plans for children.
It's very important for us to have safety plans for children. It empowers the parent, the caregiver, the guardian to know exactly what proactive steps to take when their child is in the midst of a festivity. We tend to overlook. We as adults tend to have more fun and party and forget that the children there with us. So if we come together with proactive plans, we know in case you're lost in the crowd, this is where you go. This is who you contact.
Yeah, and this is the what I want to get into some of the details of that is what sort of suggestions would you have for parents who saying, well, all right, tell them to come up with a safety plan, but I don't know where to start.
Well, one thing we know, parent and children party.
Right.
So if your children in a crowd with you and you separate, you can call hotlines like Childline, 800-4321.
No, but before we get to calling the hotline, I want to know what I'm telling the child if we separate. Where to go?
Go look for a person of trust. We have police in uniform or marked security. You go to a person of trust, you inform them that this is my name. Don't let your children go there only know to party and don't know the whereabouts. Know your name, know your contact information, know your location. Let the parents them know, okay, if we go in and we separate. And
let them know your parents' real name. You got to learn your parents. It's not we're looking for mommy and daddy. And daddy. What's your father name? Daddy.
Daddy.
Can I add
boy.
Something?
Yeah.
Because she was speaking about in terms of children being out there, but we also have to look at children's safety in the homes. Because a lot of times, especially in the evening time, into night time, parents are going to go out and party. And leaving the children either alone or in the company of maybe granny or somebody. We also have to look at where you're leaving your children, for how long, and who has access to that house and that place. That is very important as well.
All right, tell me about some of the gender affairs safety tips for Carnival.
Look at how you're getting home after your whining fit. How are you going home? Go to a fete with a friend, with a group of friends, with people who you're familiar with. Be careful of the spiking of your drink.
Right.
If you have to go to use the ladies' room, go with someone.
Nobody men's room.
Well, men's room.
I'm
Yes.
just checking to see if
Yeah,
we need
no,
to go
are
with
you
somebody.
supposed to
We need to go with somebody too.
Yes, you need to go with somebody
Yeah.
too. And, ride share. Know which ride share you're using. And again, remember that if you're drunk, you cannot consent to anything. So be careful of your alcohol consumption because no matter what, it's safety. And if you know someone has been sexually assaulted, call the police first. That's the easiest thing. Or if we have 800 SAVE, 72528 is SAVE, and you can call that. But remember, go out in groups, have a good time, but take care of yourselves. Because if you start the carnival free of anything, you want to come back after Carnival, Ash Wednesday and beyond, free of anything.
Yeah.
I'd like to add to, as she had mentioned, persons being sexually assaulted. There is a preventative measure for HIV after someone has been sexually assaulted, which is called post-exposure prophylaxis, or PEP. This has to be administered within 24 to 72 hours after the incident. So we're encouraging persons to speak up. If you have been assaulted, you can go to a health facility and they should be equipped to administer post-exposure prophylaxis and care to you.
And is that something that you need only if you test positive, or you take it in case?
Right, so they would test you first because persons may not know what they start with. Right? So they would test them, of course, and even if they are positive, they were then put on treatment. We have adopted a treat-all approach, which is global. At long time, we used to wait until the CD4 count reached a certain level and then administer. But using HIV treatment as a preventative measure, we've adopted that treat-all approach. So persons would be put on medication. If they're found positive, they would be referred, as well as if they are negative, they will be put on the post-exposure prophylaxis.
Okay, even if they don't know if they were exposed.
Yes, because this is a preventative measure.
But what are there any
there's
side
an
effects to
assessment.
that PEP?
Yeah, there are. Sorry to say it like that.
Say that so matter of fact. It's a little bit scary.
What happened, because I've spoken to persons who have taken it before. Right, in the line of work that I do, I speak with persons, and there are persons who have taken it, said they have gotten nauseous and things like that. However, it's worth it.
Well, I was about to say it sounds similar to some other side effects that people are willing to take
and
stuff
people experience different things. Some people get side effects and actually some people don't. Right? But if there's a risk of side effects, definitely there is.
It's a smaller side effect than the big side effect we're trying to avoid.
Exactly.
Ladies, thank you so very much for joining us this morning and for sharing this information. Very quickly, if people want to get more information, can they head across to your social media, your websites?
Yes, they can.
All right, beautiful. So I want to say thank you very much to Leah Padier, Financial Compliance, Agenda and Child Affairs Division, and Marie Kwame Allen, Project Execution Officer at the National Policy on Gender Development at Gender Affairs Division at the Office of the Prime Minister, and Kimberly Gilbert, HIV advocate and representing the National AIDS Coordinating Committee this morning, for joining us and sharing some Carnival safety tips. Stay tuned, we have a lot more in our morning show when we return.